Welcome to The Silent Verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
So I want you to imagine something. You own a piece of land. Maybe you've had it for years. Then one day you go to check on it and boom. On paper, it's not yours anymore. Now, what if I told you that exact thing just happened to 40 different people?
40. That's not a typo. 40 properties that a judge in Harris County, Texas, just had to order back to the rightful owners. And this wasn't some elaborate heist you see in the movies, with getaway cars and cracked safes. Nope. This whole thing was pulled off with nothing more than paperwork. So the question is, how in the world does someone steal 40 properties using just a pen and a couple of official-looking documents?
All right, so let's unravel how this all went down. You might think a scheme this big would be uncovered in some huge police raid. But that's not what happened. It all started really, really quietly, with just one guy trying to sell his land.
So the story kicks off in the most ordinary way possible. You've got a guy who's owned a plot of land for over a decade, right? And he decides, hey, it's time to sell. He hires a realtor, they do a routine check, and bam, total shock. The deed, that all-important piece of paper that says, "This is mine," had been transferred to someone else's name. As far as the county records were concerned, the real owner had just been, poof, erased from his own property's history.
And this is where the story could have just ended, right? It gets even weirder. After the first news story about this came out, the woman accused of the fraud actually reached out to the man's attorney. And she didn't just offer to sign the land back, she also cut a check for $10,000 to cover his legal fees. For a second there, it really looked like this was just some bizarre, one-off case that was now closed.
But it didn't end there. The attorneys, they got curious. While they were looking into that one case, they thought, let's just do a quick search on the accused woman's name. And what they stumbled upon, well, it blew this thing wide open, turning one weird case into a full-blown county-wide scandal.
Yeah, you see that number right. 39. 39 other properties, all with the same kind of suspicious paperwork, and all linked back to the very same person. This wasn't just one stolen lot. It was a systematic operation. The first victim, he wasn't the only one. He was just the first one to notice something was wrong.
So you got to be asking yourself, how is this even possible? How can a system that's supposed to be built on the absolute sanctity of property records be so easy to game? Well, the answer is kind of chilling, and it's all in the details of the forgeries themselves.
Okay, so for any real estate deal, the notary public is basically the gatekeeper. Their whole job is to watch you sign a document, check your ID, and then put their official stamp on it. That stamp is supposed to be the system's #1 defense against fraud. It proves you are who you say you are. But what happens when that defense is just made up?
And this quote from the attorney on the case, man, it just perfectly captures the sheer audacity of this scheme. He said he's never seen anything like it. It wasn't just a forged signature here or there. It was a complete work of fiction. Fake sellers, fake buyers, and to top it all off, a fake notary to stamp the whole thing with a fake seal of approval. The accused allegedly created an entire counterfeit reality just on paper. So when faced with this mountain of fraudulent documents, the Harris County Attorney's Office had to step in. They took action, filing a civil lawsuit against the woman and her husband because his name was on some of these deeds too. The goal was pretty simple, just undo all the damage and get these properties back to their real owners.
And you know what? The path to getting the properties back was surprisingly pretty straightforward. The county filed the lawsuit, but the couple accused of the fraud, they just never showed up to court to defend themselves. And when that happens, a judge can issue something called a default judgment. In this case, the judge just signed an order and bam, all 40 properties were ordered to be returned on paper to their original owners. A clean win, right? Or was it?
And that really brings us to the absolute core of this whole thing. The paperwork is fixed, the owners got their land back. So, case closed, justice served? Well, not so fast. It turns out there's a huge, huge difference between correcting a record and actually punishing a crime.
And this right here is the heart of the matter. Because while the civil court gave the victims a solution, it left this giant, gaping hole where accountability should have been.
Let's break this down real quick because it's super important. You have two kinds of justice here. A civil lawsuit. Its goal is to make the victim whole again. In this case, give them back their land.
It fixes the what, but criminal charges? That's totally different. Their goal is to punish the person who broke the law and to send a message to everyone else, don't do this. It addresses the who.
And this is the most unbelievable part of this entire story. Despite the scale of the fraud, the forged documents, the fake notaries, the 40 victims, to this day, neither the woman nor her husband has faced a single criminal charge.
And that leads to this really chilling takeaway from one of the lawyers involved. The reason this stuff keeps happening is because people see it as a crime where even if you get caught, basically nothing happens. Think about that. It suggests you can try to steal someone's property, and the absolute worst case scenario is you might just have to give it back. There's no real penalty, there's no deterrent. It makes a serious crime seem almost low risk.
So where does that leave us? 40 properties were returned, sure, but a massive, dangerous loophole was exposed for everyone to see. This whole affair reveals just how fragile our system of property ownership really is. And it leaves us with a really unsettling question. If you can steal 40 pieces of land and face zero criminal consequences, is the system actually protecting anyone at all?